Vice-Chancellor, graduands, guests, I'm delighted to introduce our honorary graduate today, David Medlock. Businessman, entrepreneur and philanthropic individual who gives so much back to the community. His charitable work has lasted for more than 3 decades. He was born in 1955 in Bath. David's early education was at King Edward's School before moving to Salford to study environmental health. After his graduation in 1975, David completed his professional qualification as an environmental health officer at Tameside Metropolitan Council. In 1979, David joined the family firm Hebron Medlock and an engineering design company founded by his father, Leonard Medlock. David went on to be the chairman of the group, which traded as Citec Limited, employing over 1,200 staff with a turnover of 45 million and consisting of technical recruitment and a design consultancy. David started off as a management trainee at the firm before rising through the company, holding positions of finance director, managing director and ultimately the chairman. The company was sold in January this year, and David now commits his time to 2 charitable trusts set up by the family, enabled by the proceeds of the business. David married his wife Jackie, also an alumnus of the University of Salford, in 1981, and are parents to 3 children, Stephen, Peter and Rebecca, and we're so pleased that they could be with us this morning. Together, David and Jackie are trustees of the Coles Medlock Foundation, a charitable trust founded by David's father, Leonard, in 1985. To date, the Foundation Trust has contributed over 40 million to charitable trusts with a focus on supporting children, the elderly, people with disabilities and the homeless, both here and overseas. The Coles Medlock Foundation are ardent philanthropic supporters of the University of Salford. The Trust has been key to the University's support of the Dementia Institute in Salford and supporting the very first chair, Professor of Dementia at Salford Institute of Dementia within the University, helping the Institute to become an innovative research centre that it is today. The Coles Medlock Foundation have also pledged their support to the University of Salford Centre for Doctoral Training in Prosthetics and Orthotics, enabling an international scholarship which will bring extensive experience and expertise to the new centre, designed to address an important prosthetic and orthotic skills gap at home and internationally, including many low and middle income countries. From a young age, David has demonstrated his compassion for others by being very involved and actively leading and championing the causes in the voluntary sector. This has ranged from work with Boston Volunteer Centre charity to the Gateway Club and to the Centre for Voluntary Services in Bath. While based in Manchester, he was involved with Shelter, a charity that campaigns to end homelessness, and in the year 2000, David was a member of the Bath and North East Somerset Council Single Homeless Partnership, aimed at supporting homeless people into housing, employment and good health. David's service to the community continues and is broad in its reach. David has been the Deputy Lieutenant of Somerset since 2008, and from 2012 and 2018 took on a new role as Vice Lord Lieutenant. David was also the Pro-Chancellor at Bath University. These positions came with responsibilities including all regional aspects of visits by members of the royal family, representing royal visitors at a variety of events and participation in civic and voluntary activities. The University and the City of Salford are proud to have David as an advocate, a philanthropic supporter and a pillar of our society. Vice-Chancellor, I present to you Mr. David Medlock, who is highly worthy of receiving the degree of Doctorate of Business Administration, honoris causa.
Doctor of Business Administration, honoris causa. Congratulations. Really good. Great stuff.
Wow. Vice-Chancellor, Professor Rowe, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Vice-Chancellor, for the huge honour you have bestowed on me, and also to you, Professor Rowe, for the kind words which you spoke. I arrived at Salford in the autumn of 1972, a somewhat naive 17-year-old from Bath, although I've now learned to say Bath, and became a university education which was not just restricted to academia. This experience of all that Salford life had to offer, and the following 3 years working for Tameside Borough Council, was beyond priceless. The first thing I learnt was that I was not an academic. However, I did enjoy the hospitality and friendship of the Salford and Greater Manchester community. Looking back at 50 years ago, you may get the impression that the environment here was rather bleak and depressed, but you could not be further from the truth. This area has always been vibrant and sociable, and I count myself fortunate to have been welcomed into that community. I'm sure others could say the same about where they lived or were brought up and went to university, and I know my youngest son spent 3 very happy years at Newcastle. That experience has stayed with me ever since, and in my hometown of Bath, I always try to greet strangers with a smile. However, I must add that the very best part of Salford was to meet my future wife, who followed me back down to the West Country in 1980 and has been stuck with me ever since. She tells me I'm still on probation. My time in Greater Manchester set me firmly on the path of involving myself in the local community, and I can only say that you only get out of life what you put in. You can watch it on TV, or you can participate. Returning to Bath, I first volunteered at the local Gateway Centre, which is a social evening for disabled teenagers and young adults. It was huge fun, and it was followed by usually a couple of beers, and it was great for 10 years before my own children demanded more of my time. My first dealings with university at the senior level was in 1986, when after establishing the family charity, my father and I visited a rather bemused Vice-Chancellor at Bath University. I must add at this point that my father left school at 15, and I was the first in our extended family to actually have attended university. Once the Vice-Chancellor had come to grips with the fact that we were there to provide financial support, we agreed to sponsor the engagement of a young and highly thought-of mathematician, and after 30 years he is still contributing to the university and his department. Altogether, I then spent 14 years on council at the University of Bath, 11 of which was as Pro-Chancellor. And my observation during that time is that working in a university management is tough, and most of these academics do not have an easy life. The top job of Vice-Chancellor is the most challenging senior management role that I have seen, and compared with the House of Lords, successful Vice-Chancellors are worth every penny they're paid. From a successful business career in engineering established in 1951, the charities have contributed over £40 million to good causes, and I often quote my father when he said that money is like manure. Piled high it can be offensive, and spread thinly it can do a great amount of good. Often I'm asked, how do you become successful? To which I always flippantly reply, you choose your parents wisely. But really, you do have a choice in your partners, your friends, your associates, and those are the ones who have contributed to my success, and it's more about them than it is about me. Finally, I would like to congratulate all of you here supporting those graduating today. As my parents said 44 years ago, it's a relief. Thank you all once again for listening and for the privilege of standing here in front of you. Thank you very much.